mechanic, pretending to be the good mechanic, the issue will not be resolved. That is what we have here. That is what our faith and religion and culture is about. Along the way, there has been mistakes. Along the way, something has not gone right. Along the way, the old mindset is still hanging over us. We gradually believe in it. We may have some ancestral help, but ancestral help is to give us some awareness of some existence, is to give us some knowledge of how to move forward, not for us to dwell on it and accept it as it is. Because if it was better, then there is no need for any progression or for any development. But we develop because it is necessary to move out of that old-fashioned way or old writings. Even the writings are improving. We cannot read the old letters or how they wrote things. We have to write it and say this is more better to us than that time. Things change. So it is necessary for us to see things in the right way, mold things right, embrace what needs to be embraced, not what is not necessary for us to embrace. So as I said, we go back to the Genesis, continue from Genesis 12. Okay, Genesis 12. When we sort of look at what the Bible says regarding Noah and all that, and the family settling in the east and all that. If you go through to 12, Abraham, the generation have come from Noah and now fallen to Abraham. This is where Abraham was being sort of revealed in the picture, and what the promise he had from God. That's the very faith he had. Abraham is the very person seen to be the source of the faith of today, or the generation by which the Arabs, those in the Arabian Peninsula, including the Islamic worships and all the worshippers, and the Christians are also, blending with it. And the Jewish people has been the father of all. That he actually generated. Noah is more considered than Abraham, because it was Abraham who gave birth to the 12, the Isaac, Jacob, and Jacob have the 12 children that today believe in the Jewish land where the generation came from, because during that time, his settlement in Egypt, drifting them to have a place, is like the center of the story come from that end. So it's more of Abraham being the key or the main source by which today's worship has been known. And all the other side issues that we never resolved, that is according to the Bible, we never resolved, and according to Quran, never resolved, of people who came along the way. We don't know where they came from. I don't know where they came from. It is not revealed. But even that alone disqualified the knowledge of trying to say that we have all the answers. But if it is God, if it is God that has spoken, we should have all the answers. Because he won't let us be left halfway without any answer to the problems that we need to have, or he will not leave us in a blind state. He will lie to us to know the truth, because in the same books he revealed to us what importance is truth, how truth is very, very, very important and valuable to him and to us, that we shouldn't allow falsehood or lies to take over our lives. But the sad thing is, the very places that we are having this information of, that claim that God is the one who said those things from this book, the same book, we are revealing things that are not necessarily valid truth, nor cannot be explained or seen as being the solid truth. There's no answers in it. They don't have definite answers. Bits and pieces of writings from here and there. It does not give you the solution to the problems of your life, knowing your roots, knowing the source of life, know where the life is going. It keeps you always hanging in there and make it look like God's idea is for you to hang in there. But why would God do that? If you hang in there, you can't resolve anything. You can't be at peace by hanging in there. You can imagine when one suspend himself for whatever time by his own effort. You get tired. Even if you're standing for how long, you get tired. And if you sit for how long, you get tired. So for you to be in that situation where it demands your effort, you can't handle it for that long. You can't. You will give up. You will give up sometime, somewhere along the line. But that is not what we expect. But if there are answers, you will not hang in there. You will not hang in the middle. You will not be caught in between. You understand? If you have answers, you look forward. You really have an independent life, positive drive to everything. You don't live in confusion. You have a solid, straight, positive mind. Anything you do, with no doubt of you have no doubt about your decisions or the steps you take. So Abraham here is also having a promise from God, and that was probably the very first promise, which came from Abraham, which was from in a sense by Abraham, and from his father. He was told to move out of his father's house and settle somewhere for that kind of what do you call it, and he did so. For God to be able to talk to him. I mean, God is asking you to get away from your family house and live somewhere so He can communicate with you. That's something that you must also, you consider. Someone is pulling you out quietly from your family so that He take you somewhere else. Maybe whatever the family was into, maybe they were not true believers, whichever way, or they would destroy. You see, my understanding of God ends this from the very beginning, that God doesn't need to do all that. He doesn't have to waste his time or his precious moment time for this. He doesn't do. God will not. Anyone doesn't joke with anything precious that is his, or anything that is taking his time or effort to do. It can easily be resolved. That whatever the family was going to, God can resolve that issue. So why would He sneak somebody out to say, "Hey, go somewhere else and live there. I will take your life. I will build your life from there." That family, they will change you. They will make you become something else. So, God ability with God and all His abilities, He is now telling Abraham to go and live somewhere, and he will then build his life from there. That's why the promise of Isaac took a whole long time. That even Abraham had to end up sleeping with his maid, as is based on his wife's request, before later they were able to have a child. And I was not sure why would God do that? God knew the future, that if He takes Abraham out, this is what Abraham is going to do. He knows that when He takes Abraham out of the family, Abraham will end up sleeping with his maid to have a child. But God does not care, as I said, they come again. God doesn't care very much about what sleeping with his maid. God doesn't care. He didn't have a problem with that. If he slept with his maid, it's a woman and a man. God has blessed for a man and a woman to sleep. So it was a blessed thing that they slept, that God, the man, was to sleep. It's not because her wife allowed, or anything. Even if her wife have not agreed, God have already ordained for man and a woman to sleep. So he wasn't doing anything against the Bible or against the Quran from what I can read here. That's how I view it. But if I have the mental mind of adultery and fornication and all those things, I begin to have issue with what Abraham do. And not just with what Abraham do, I begin to have issue with what God did and what the Bible is saying. I begin to have issue to doubt that, why would God say that? There's quite confusion. Why would God? Is it not the same God who did that, who asked us to do that? It is not the same God who pronounced that, through this process that we end up where we are. Why would God do that? But if you have a good molded mind of acceptance of what really truth is about, or what is more accepted in a natural sense or logical sense, you don't have to problem. You read it, and there are things that you can easily feel at ease with. The same way, because to my view, God isn't having problem with who He slept with, and God mustn't have problem with that. You understand? God won't have any problem with him being with it. But the problem is that God knew, if God have problem with that, or God will ever have any problem with that, God knew from the very future that this is what this guy is going to end up doing. He's going to end up sleeping with his mate and have a child.